Good morning. It is 11 a.m. here at Eastern Standard Time. We are spread around a couple states this morning with our guests. I'm Jared Arnett, Executive Director of Shaping Our Appalachian Region, or SOAR as the acronym goes, and that's SOAR. We always get some good jokes about that. But it's good to have everybody out. We got an exciting kind of conversation we're going to have here today, discussion with an entrepreneur, fellow founder of several different things that we'll dig into as we get into the conversation this morning. But this is part of our Business as Unusual webinar series that we've been doing over the last several weeks. As we've just been talking to different entrepreneurs, we talked to different community leaders, and just getting an understanding from where we're all at and trying to stay connected during this unprecedented time. We're responding to COVID in different ways and finding ways to continue to deliver value and still be helpful for one another and be there for one another. So we're excited. We got Ryan Jones on with us this morning. He's our Director of SOAR Innovation. He runs our business innovation work in Appalachia, Kentucky. And just a quick snippet about SOAR. 7 years ago, the region of Appalachia, Kentucky came together, put together a plan, a vision for the future of Appalachia. We call it the blueprint for the future of Appalachia. SOAR is a backbone organization that just exists to help move that plan forward. And so we support all the partners and work with over 250 that are formally connected and are part of the SOAR network to move that plan forward. We always say the first goal in that plan is internet connectivity, and the other 6 are about what we're going to do with it. And that's talking about workforce development, entrepreneurship, telemedicine, healthy communities, and tourism, downtown redevelopment, all those pieces through the lens of innovation and connectivity. One of those goals is entrepreneurship in the digital economy, and Ryan Jones leads our work in that space. And we've also got Enoch Elwell with us, and Ryan's going to intro him in a minute. It's great to have Enoch with us, longtime friend, and we spent a lot of time brainstorming and talking about entrepreneurship in rural communities and what it looks like. And he's a thought leader in this space, and has made a difference. He started in Chattanooga, which we'll talk about, but he's made a difference in rural communities now across the globe, which is really an incredible thing. So Ryan, if you want to kick us off and share a little bit more about Enoch, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Sounds great. As Jared mentioned, my name is Ryan Jones. I'm the Director of SOAR Innovation. SOAR Innovation is a partnership with the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development. We wake up every day thinking about you and your business and how we can help and provide more resources to help your business grow and scale, or help you with a new way forward with your business given the circumstances. We exist to drive action, grow the network, and be the champion. Our team encourages businesses to leverage the digital economy to access a market outside of the region, whether that be through e-commerce or other distribution strategies. Our goal is really to help your business get to the market rather than always relying on the market to come to you. I'm an entrepreneur myself, as well as Jared, and we are in the same boat as many of you with the stress and anxiety and wondering what your business looks like and what the future looks like for your business. And maybe you are looking for a new way forward, or you're looking at reimagining your model. You can connect with our team at soarinnovation.tech. We have a team of business and innovation champions spread throughout our 54 county footprint. We have one in London, Hazard, Pikeville, Moorhead, and Campton. So if you want to connect with somebody on our team, they are a champion for you and your business and your community. So if you want to connect with them, go to soarinnovation.tech, and we will make sure that they are connected with you. Today, we're glad to be with Enoch Elwell, COSTARTERS founder and CEO, as part of our Business as Unusual series. Enoch has been involved with startups since his grade school popsicle stand, which hopefully he'll talk about, with his latest adventure being a luxury treehouse retreat called the Treetop Hideaways. And it is amazing. I've been there before last year. It's a great place to go hang out in Georgia, right across the state border in Tennessee. Driven by passion to help others, Enoch currently supports hundreds of emerging startup communities through the COSTARTERS platform, helping local ecosystem builders around the world take the first steps in accelerating the success of thousands of creative starters Together, these non-traditional small business owners are growing and thriving culture of collaborative entrepreneurial support in their communities. Today, we're going to be chatting with Enoch on a little bit on how they have transformed the downtown area of Chattanooga by launching their Co-STARTERS program, how it transformed into a global program in over 200 communities across the world, and how they have sort of pivoted and reimagined their business model and how they're rebuilding during COVID-19. So first, Enoch, we're going to get started with a icebreaker question. And Jared and I will play along with this as well. We have several Co-STARTERS graduates on the call today, so we thought it was only fitting for us to ask you what your highs and lows during the COVID-19 crisis have been. So tell us a little bit about what your highs and lows have been.
Well, thank you so much for having me on here with you guys. It's good to spend time with y'all and with this wider group. And I love that we're kicking off with this is how we start off every Co-STARTERS gathering, checking in with each other with highs and lows. So that's awesome. Thanks for pulling that out. So yeah, for COVID, it's been all over the place. So, you know, it's been like the best and worst of things all at once. So the high for me has been being home with my family. I've been on the road for the past several years without much of a break. And in the spring, it's conferences nonstop and never being home. And so this is the longest I've been home in years. And it's been wonderful with my 3 little kids and my wife. We've been playing together. We've been building forts in the woods. It's been great. So that's my high. The low is, I think, what we're all experiencing here. I'm very, very deeply concerned about small businesses, as you know, the owners of businesses, where we're all kind of in a very, very challenging time. In the kind of the recent history of our country, this is one of the biggest crises we have as business owners, but then also looking more at scale at the small business sector itself and the role that small businesses play in communities, and seeing how that's being so just threatened. That is deeply concerning to me. And so I've been kind of carrying a lot of that and trying to figure out what can we do about this? How can we best not only survive this time, but ideally come out ahead in some ways. So that's been weighing on me a lot. It's definitely been the low. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that stuff later on. But that's me. So Jared, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can jump in. I can definitely agree on the highs. I spent a lot of time on the road traveling, and so thankful for the last couple months to get to be at home. I got little ones as well, 10-year-old and an 18-month-old. So it's added to the dynamic of work, that's for sure. As our team has been all remote for over 2 months now. And so right before we started, we had one bust through the door just a minute ago. So just be on the lookout for that. Could happen again. But highs being home with them, so much so that yesterday my little girl, she's 10, she was riding her scooter, and she asked me, can people do tricks on scooters? I said, yeah, just YouTube it. And so we YouTubed and all these crazy stunts people were doing on scooters, and we walked back outside. And first trick you learn is the bunny hop. And I said, I could probably do the bunny hop. So I grabbed it, and I said, let me see that. And so I bunny hopped right up on the driveway and hit, flat on my back. I'm not a teenager anymore. It was embarrassing. It was great. It was Dad's famous last words. Let me see that.
We're still trying to figure out if we can get the video from that.
Actually, it's really funny. I just put it on my Facebook, but the security camera, I was behind our van, so all you can see, you can hear me hit the ground and see the scooter fly out from behind it. But yeah, it's been great being at home. The lows for me is, I'm so used to. I'm an introvert, but I miss. It took me 2 months to miss seeing everybody. And that connectivity of seeing people face to face and being out with people in their communities and learning about them and understanding them, and that connectivity for me or disconnectivity is starting to take a little bit of a toll. So that's probably my highs and lows for me.
Yeah, and on the same
Fine.
boat with a lot of you. Highs have been definitely being at home a little bit more. Started to garden this year, which has been really cool. I don't know that I would have had the time or had, put in the extra effort to try something new if, I've been trying to keep myself busy and keep my mind busy and doing things. So starting a garden has been one of those things that's keep me distracted from all the things that are happening around us. Lows, I mean, I'm an extrovert, so not being around people is a problem for me. and being with my, just being with the rest of my family, not being able to see them, and that's been a real struggle for me. So I can't wait for the day that we're able to sit down and go to a restaurant together and sit down and eat. That's been another low, not being able to go out to a restaurant and sit down and eat. I know Jared, that's one of his lows as well. We like to eat, so that's probably for me. So Jared, do you want to go ahead and kick us off with and thank you, Enoch, for participating with the highs and lows. I thought that was fitting for today's program.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, we can jump in here. I'll share. If anybody, if you're on the Zoom call and you've got a question, there's a Q&A functionality down at the bottom. Feel free to throw in some questions there. There's also the chat functionality. If you're watching us on Facebook, feel free to share it with your friends. And also, I'll try to go back and forth and try to watch any comments on the Facebook stream. If you've got a question, we'll try to get those answered. But I think, yeah, for an entrepreneur, you mentioned the popsicle stand. Let's just start there. We're not going to go through your whole life story, but just share a little bit about how you got interested in entrepreneurship, what it meant to you, and how you kind of your first dipping your toes into it, what that was like.
Sure. So I think one thing that's helpful is I haven't. I'm a little afraid to say this here. This is the wrong place to say it, maybe, but I actually haven't really been interested in entrepreneurship.
No, it's great. Yeah.
I've been interested in making things and sharing things with people, and being creative and getting together with other people. Just like building, right? Generating ideas and building community and building relationships. And so I kind of stumbled into entrepreneurship. So but at the same time, my parents, the environment I was in set me up well for that to be a possibility. That wasn't some kind of, foreign concept. So, my parents were ones to set us up to where if we wanted to do something, they said, great, do it. So we wanted, what was it? Me and my siblings, we wanted a go-kart. And so like, great, earn the money, right? So we had to earn some money. So we decided to sell popsicles. And so they're like, okay, well, great. Ride your bikes to the store, buy the ingredients. Good luck, right? So me and my siblings, we, got the concentrated juice and the little paper cups and little popsicle sticks and froze those things and sold them for 25 cents. And I think we had a decent profit margin. Let me tell you, the lemonade is the best one. The grape and the apple, they didn't have very good profit margins. Anyway, so we sold those things, and we ended up having our neighborhood from all over line up outside the door and buy these things just nonstop. And we were good enough prices that the ice cream truck, didn't really compete with us. And so we pulled away all the business and got a bunch of sales. We even had like contests where we'd have like a winner, the popsicle stick, the winning popsicle stick, and then people would buy like 8 of them just to be able to win. It was all kinds of fun. So, but again, the idea wasn't business. It was just we need some money to buy a go-kart, and so we did it. And so in similar ways, my original life goal was to be a luthier, the best guitar maker in the world. That was my goal. So I wasn't going to go to college. I was going to train under the lead guy. I trained under the lead guy from Martin Guitars to learn the skill, and discovered that these people who are really good at, who are artisans, who are the best in their craft, knew very little about business. And they would, tell all the customers to stop bothering them so they could just build this thing that they loved and nobody else really wanted, right? Their unique, strange type of, art that they appreciated, but maybe other people didn't. And so while they could sell a guitar for tens of thousands of dollars, they didn't make things that people really wanted. And so they were struggling financially. They weren't really having viable businesses, which then meant that they weren't able to actually viably pursue their art or their craft because it was, it was always a struggle. And so from that, I discovered, I like making things, but I don't like living this kind of miserable, vow of poverty and everything else either. So how can I have both, right? How can I be able to provide for my family and make wonderful things and share them with people, and also like meet people's needs, right?
Yeah.
There's something about business, and this is something that I really deeply resonate with. Business, so many people say, if you'd ask someone, the MBA version of what business exists for, right? Maximizing shareholder wealth or, increasing, economic return or whatever. But sure, that's like one option. But the same, a same kind of holistic view of business could just be around serving others, creating value for others, around that customer exchange. Someone has a need and you fill their need. And to me, that's really fulfilling and meaningful and powerful. And I wanted to see how I could do that better. And so then I started pursuing business, not as an end in itself, not because of an interest in business, but realizing that business for so many people is the thing that gets in the way of pursuing these other things. And I wanted that for myself, and I wanted that for others, to be able to be a more whole person, to express something, that I want to share with others, or just kind of realize in myself, help other people solve needs in a community, create value for others, and, have financial security as a person. And so all those things can be solved through business, but business was more the thing that got in the way, that I just wanted to get figured out so I could accomplish those other things. So that's kind of my take. It's a little bit different. I know I spent a lot of time in the entrepreneurship world. I believe it's a powerful, transformative thing, but I think it's a tool, a powerful tool, but not an end in itself.
Yeah, that makes great sense. So, you were the founder and CEO of COSTARTERS, which Co is short for company starters. If you're new on this, you don't know Enoch, you don't know COSTARTERS. COSTARTERS is a 9-week accelerator program, training program that is for people who are wanting to start a company. And you may have already been in a company, and it walks you through. I mean, it's a fantastic curriculum and process. We first met. We probably met before, but it's been a couple of years. We met Canaan Valley, not sure how to say it, West Virginia, at a rural entrepreneurship event. And I learned more about COSTARTERS there. And we were looking in our region for some program to deploy to build capacity that was practical. It was not overly academic, but it wasn't not deep enough to really provide substance. And we just felt like your curriculum was dead on right there in that sweet spot. It's very practical. People don't end with a 20-page academic business plan. They got 1 page of everything that matters, and they understand it in detail. So tell us a little bit about the COSTARTERS story, where it came from. I know it was started in Chattanooga. I've been down, I visited with you in Chattanooga. Maybe talk a little bit about what the community was going through at the time, and then how COSTARTERS popped up as a solution or part of the solution, and what that impact has been.
Yeah, I'd love to share some of that. So, and that kind of builds on some of that background, personal background, because I was in Chattanooga actually getting a business degree, because I thought, I'd explore that side of the, resources out there to figure out business and life. And, I realized that a traditional business degree is focused more on, find your corporate niche and, specializing in whatever that is, whether it's marketing or accounting or whatever. But for launching and running a creative small enterprise, right? And business not really being the goal necessarily, but kind of the tactical, practical, like, how do I just make this stuff work so I can do these other things? The traditional business degree wasn't necessarily the best fit for that. And so kind of looking at both ends of the spectrum, right? Just going out and creating isn't necessarily the whole sustainable picture. And just getting a lot of specialized business knowledge, the kind of MBA path, isn't necessarily the whole picture either. And so in that kind of existential crisis I was going through, I connected with this wonderful organization in Chattanooga that had popped up, which was trying to use creativity and innovation to change the culture of the city. That was its purpose. It was a nonprofit, a temporary 5-year project to bring together people across all sectors, from you focus on the economy to education to the environment, physical kind of built environment, right? But also the natural environment, and looking kind of at all sides. What is it? I guess in the language we'd use today, what does a healthy ecosystem look like, right? But the idea there is just, how do we have a thriving culture here where people want to stay instead of leave? And so I got together with this group of just, kind of unlikely suspects, the artisans and the creatives and the makers and the do-gooders and the, teachers and the, just this hodgepodge of people who cared about the community, and who said, we want to see this city flourish, and we want to see a strong, a strong love for our region. How might we build that up? And so we did a lot of experiments around those different areas of focus, right? We did one of the largest community visioning surveys that had been done, 26,000 responses in a city that was just under 200,000 people. And so through that process, we discovered that, people care about some pretty basic things, right? We're all human more than we always think, right? We care about income security, right? Are we going to get the money we need to survive? We care about good education for our children. We do care about the environment around us. We care about crime, right? And so then we started doing these experiments on how could we help address some of these issues. And so the work that I was doing was around, particularly around the economic security. And the concept was pretty simple. There's a lot of people in every community who have an outsized influence in the development of the local culture. For example, if you go, just think about the last place you went that you thought was like the coolest place and couldn't wait to go back to and told all your friends about. When you explained that place, you probably talked about maybe some of the natural environment, right? Like there was this beautiful river, these mountains, right? But then pretty immediately you got to some other things that define the culture of the place. And more likely than not, most of the ways you described the culture of the place was through small businesses. For example, you said, I went to this awesome restaurant and it was so cool. It had this really interesting food, and then there's this great coffee shop, this beautiful patio space, and we sat out and watched the river below. And then, we went and we rented these bikes and we went and biked through the, forest on these mountain biking trails, right? Your experience of culture is primarily through small businesses that are integrated into a place, that have a love for a place and allow people to engage with the place in really special ways. And so our idea was, how can we help these culture makers, right, who in some way are trying to sustainably build the culture of a community? How can we help them be successful and sustainable in business, figure out that business thing so they could exponentially accelerate their cultural contribution? Because a lot of these people had crummy day jobs and were doing this cultural contribution on the side, nights and weekends, right? Yeah. Most artists and musicians and all this stuff are doing that as their side gig. Because they care, right? It's something they're going to do because it's who they are. But if you could get people to switch from doing 4 hours a week or 3 hours a week as a side gig to 60 hours a week as a full-time thing because they're obsessed, right? You could just, even if you had 10 people in your community make that shift, it would exponentially accelerate the entire cultural growth of your community. And so that's a big, big lever. So we really ran some experiments around that. If we can figure out this business, get that business stuff out of the way for cultural developers, you could say, cultural contributors in the community, what could that look like? So we ran those experiments in Chattanooga. It was extremely successful. We had this cultural renaissance that people have been pointing to and, I guess bragging about for years since. And I think that really came down to that fundamental concept of helping non-business people figure business stuff out to build up their community.
Yeah, that's awesome. You want to jump in with a follow-up there, Ryan?
Yeah, I was just, you guys started COSTARTERS in, I guess it really began in 2008. Small band of misfits, makers, artisans, artists, you mentioned that. Did you think that your local efforts would spark a movement into over 200 communities at the time? Was that the vision always, or did it just kind of naturally happen?
We had no idea. The goal was to just help Chattanooga become a better place. And really, it was just a neighborhood. It was the main street of Chattanooga. And when we were there, it was kind of in many ways a deserted street with abandoned buildings and a pretty disinvested area. And the idea is, what if we can make Main Street a place that people would want to come to? And if we did that, maybe people would want to, would care about Chattanooga more. And so it was, it was really just a handful of people with trying to change improve one part of a community. But that resonated, and it became really clear that this wasn't an isolated need, but this was a more universal need, right? This is a citywide thing. This is a region-wide thing. This is a statewide thing. This is a countrywide thing. This was a global thing, right? This is like the moment that we're in as humanity, right? And so the thing that's been really just incredible to see is that our society is ripe for some disruption, for some change, to swing the pendulum back in the other direction a little bit, where we've gotten so far away from personal relationship, from I guess a community foundation, I guess, and we have we've reaped the benefits of the extremes that the industrial age has given us, of efficiency and repeatability and scalability and low cost of efficiency and cost to get things commoditized to where we have unprecedented access and affordable access to many things that would have that were impossible in the past. And that's benefited society in huge ways, where we have, amazing medicine and food as cheap and freely available as possible. But at the same time, we've lost a lot of things along the way, where it's been really clear that more and more people everywhere are wanting to connect with something real and tangible, and something that, wanting to eat food from the area, to know who's making, growing your food, to know who's making the things that you use, and a reconnection to the story and to the richness and the craft and things is a huge resurgence. So with all those things, I guess it became pretty clear that this wasn't just a neighborhood thing. This was a larger movement that we happen to be moving inside of sorts. And what's become clear even in the more recent years is this is probably one of the biggest transformations in the history of humanity. If you look at the ages, from the hunter-gatherers, right, to agrarian society, to, the industrial age that we're in now, we're coming to the end of the industrial age. The experts pretty much all agree. It's just a matter of when is it over yet, and when is the new thing starting? We're about to enter into a whole new age of humanity. People are calling it the connected age. And we're in the middle of that shift. And so as communities, we're in an existential crisis. As people, we're trying to figure out, what are the new rules? The way things have worked don't seem like they mesh up fully. I don't feel fully satisfied, or like I'm, living things in the right way for the time that we're in, but I don't know what to do or how to do it, or how to move or transition. And so that's the moment that we're in. And that's, I think, why COSTARTERS has really resonated in communities everywhere, because every community is trying to figure out this transformation, what it looks like, where we're headed, we don't know. And our whole model is built around, how do you figure out how to move forward in uncertainty? When the answers aren't clear, when there's no expert who can just tell you what to do, when really the learning models of the past don't apply. And so COSTARTERS is built all around a different type of learning model, a peer support model that's facilitated, where we assume that everybody is a person and people are inherently, smart and creative and innovative and have different perspectives, and that's good. And if you can actually unlock or engage the potential that exists, the value that exists in each person, and get each person to share their knowledge with each other, that's actually more powerful and more transformative than any one expert, even the most experienced expert, because they just have one set of information. So anyway, I'm kind of going long-winded here, but this is what I get really excited about. We've just spent all of our time trying to learn the best of how people can interact with each other and share value in a way that frees up everybody's value and gets it applied to action and to results as quickly as possible. And we're just trying to share those models as widely as we can. And anytime anybody learns more stuff, we're learning from the group at SOAR and the work that they've been doing. We're just listening well, saying, okay, what's working for you? Great. How can we share this with more people? What's not working? Okay, great. How can we tell people that this probably isn't going to be very helpful? And just keep kind of building up a new way of doing and learning and being, and hopefully accelerate this future world in a way that helps us all thrive faster. So that's COSTARTERS.
Tell us the story of, it started as a local program, part of a nonprofit in Chattanooga, supporting local artisans and had a lot of success there. And then there was at some point you made the decision, so wait, I think this thing has value. This is not just a Chattanooga thing, which is I think what you just referenced, that this is a solution rural communities anywhere would need and has value there. Kind of walk us through that first, and maybe the first community. I mean, I just know being an entrepreneur, that first sale you make, the first, like you had an idea and then it like, oh, I think this is going to work. And, tell us maybe the first community outside of Chattanooga, your first sale and first addition, and then kind of what your team was thinking, what it was looking like. Just kind of take us there for a minute.
Well, that's a good question. So we actually weren't thinking about it as a business. The goal was to help people and do it sustainably and, focus on Chattanooga. And there's something really good about focusing on your community that and going deep, right, instead of going broad.
Yeah.
But then we had people coming to Chattanooga saying, hey, we love what's happening here. We love this story. Like, how can we do the same thing in our community? And the whole time, we were like, we still don't know what we're doing here, first of all. Second of all, we don't know anything about your community, so we can't really tell you what to do. Everybody's different, right? But like, here's what worked for us. Here's what didn't. Like, good luck if you want to run with this. Like, have fun. We'll be a sympathetic ear and tell us what we figure out. And so that was kind of how we started growing, with the assumption that it probably wouldn't work, but there's some things some things you can learn from us, right?
Yeah.
But then people kept coming back and saying, hey, this works really well for us too. And what we found is we had gotten our model down to the point where it was really more around human connection principles, like things that span across multiple communities, multiple contexts, multiple cultures, in ways that actually made it work. And so we were suspicious. We weren't trying to scale. We didn't think it would scale, I guess. And then we discovered that these larger trends actually positioned it well, because we were trying to address these larger trends around how do people connect well, and how do people create value for each other well. So when that became clear, then the question was like, okay, if this can make a big impact, in a significant way, and it's working, well, how can we put our energy behind that? So at that point, we realized that if we tried to do a bifurcated mission of support Chattanooga really well and support the rest of the world, that would be a distractor for both things. So we had to make the decision to split off. And so I transitioned out from the local nonprofit in Chattanooga, and we built a team focused on the rest of Chattanooga and the rest, supporting all the communities everywhere, right? When we did that, we actually made a very interesting decision to switch from a nonprofit to a for-profit. And that's a whole nother conversation that we could have, but there's some thinking that we still, it still hasn't been proven yet if that was the best decision or not. But the idea has been the need is massive. The need is so large that, even for a nonprofit model, a nonprofit is funded, nonprofits are funded by derivatives of for-profit work, right? Money is made, a portion of the money is contributed to nonprofit activity. And our hope, our dreams, our aspirations are ginormous, are huge. We want to change the whole fabric of society and the way business is done. And so we can't work as a derivative of business. We need to actually build up. We need to take market share over the business, structure, the way of business as a whole. And so our idea was more, how can we integrate in business, as opposed to being a nonprofit support structure that works in a corner of the story. Now, those are all pie in the sky ideals. Who knows if that was the right decision or best decision, but I thought it might be helpful to share some of that in our thinking. We really believe that businesses can transform society in ways that nonprofits are doing that work, and in ways that may even be able to go beyond, or at least be sustainable in different ways than nonprofits. And we're very interested in exploring that.
I think just one thing you said there, such a critical point that that kind of gets hidden, is you made a decision. Like so many times in times of uncertainty and when you got difficult things, you can get stuck and decision making is some of the most difficult work in being a leader. And to be a strong leader, you got to be willing to choose one or the other. And however many years it's been, you're still debating whether it was the right one or not. but you made it and you've made impact and it's been good. So, somebody struggling today, and it was actually, I've got a little, a planner I use, and the quote at the top of it was, "What brave decision do you need to make today that you're putting off?" Basically, what's the thing that's just floating out there, and you need to go one way or the other. Just go. At some point, you got to go. So you went, and the impact now. How many communities is COSTARTERS in?
Well, yeah, we've supported now just over 200 communities all around the world, mostly in the U.S., mostly in smaller rural communities in the U.S. And we've helped over 12,000 businesses get their start, which is so exciting to me. It's just
Yeah.
really rewarding.
I mean, that's an amazing number, an amazing feat. Ryan, you got any questions? You got any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking, a lot of times back to what you were saying, like you think so much and you're not making a decision, but it goes back to one of my favorite founders, Dr. Lyons, that I got to work for 5 years. He always said, "Don't get it right, get it going." So you don't have to get it perfect right off the bat. You have to go test your assumptions, right? Just like the program. And it sounds like it's, even for COSTARTERS as a for-profit company, you're still testing your assumptions and seeing if that's going to work. If it doesn't work, you'll just do something else and try again. And we talk a lot about failure and learning from failure and learning from our assumptions. So I guess the next question for you would be, what has been your biggest failure, whether that be through COSTARTERS or Treetop Hideaways or some of your other side hustles? What has been your biggest failure along the way?
Oh boy, you're gonna make it that strong. You said we were talking about failure, but not what is your biggest failure.
You don't have to go that far if you're having trouble choosing which one of the many. If you're like us,
it's not like
but yeah.
Go a little deeper, but it's like, can you just go like to the deepest part here? Okay. Yeah. So one thing, the one thing that I think is probably most helpful to share, there's a lot of different failures I could share, but maybe this is most helpful, is I think a lot of people think of failure as like the thing that's obviously bad, right? Like, so there's good stuff you can do and there's bad stuff you can do, right? And you did something stupid and you got the rewards of that, or the punishment for that, and obviously you shouldn't have done it, and so it was a failure, right? But then I think the other thing that's more hard to see as failure is when, you're choosing between two good things and you're doing a good thing and it's good and I should be doing this. But then, on a harder analysis, maybe you can see how that could be hurting you. So I want to share about that. And with COSTARTERS, we are an impact organization. Our purpose is to help people and communities thrive through entrepreneurship, full stop, right? And our goal is significant. We want to change the culture of business. Our focus is on the United States, but also globally. But we want to change the way business happens. We want to shift the purpose of business in the United States. So that's a big aspirational goal. And so with that, you can already see where I'm probably going here. It's so easy with everybody on our team being so motivated by that desire. When somebody says, "Can you help me?" we're like, "Yes, of course. Let's give everything we can. Let's just do whatever we can in whatever way we can to just help you," right? And so that's wonderful. That heart is so good. One of the things that has hurt us the most and actually limited our ability to impact people and communities has been that we always push too far. I feel like, I don't want to say this word, but I don't know a better way to say it. We gave too much. We gave out of instead of giving out of our abundance and giving out of our strength, we gave to a point where we have been weak, if that's a way to say it. And so, for example, and we all know this, right? We tell this to others and we don't tell it to ourselves, right? You communicate value with your price, right? And so you got to make sure you price according to your value, and you can always discount, right? Or you build up your strong base of paying customers, so then you can do your pro bono work on the side, right? All that kind of things. But if you start by just doing filling up all your time with pro bono work, and then you push away your paying customers because you don't have time for them. That's kind of backwards, right? And so in a similar way, we kind of went too far in the direction of let's just help as many people as we can, while we weren't actually listening to what the stewardess says, put on your oxygen mask before helping others, right? First, right? So that's, I think, the biggest thing that we have been learning from, and over the past, say 2 years, we have been having to correct from, where we went too far in just trying to give, but not out of a position of strength. That's a hard lesson, and it's a hard thing to say, oh, you shouldn't do that.
It is definitely a difficult place, especially when your heart is in and we deal with it at SOAR, when our heart is in, delivering service and helping and change and impact. And it's hard to balance, to know that many of those things that we're doing deliver value and could generate some revenue that would actually help us to be able to help more people and more communities. And you can get stretched too thin sometimes. But we've got a couple of questions popped up down here in the Q&A that we'll address right now. And there's one in the chat, and then we'll talk a little bit more. But I think we can answer these pretty quick. And maybe Enoch, if you want to jump in on that first one. How are you marketing COSTARTERS as a tool for communities to utilize for their startups or existing businesses? How do they find out about you? I'll share just for our region, Terry. SOAR is a partner with COSTARTERS. We ran 6 cohorts around the Eastern Kentucky region last year. We did one in, let's see if I can get these, one in Moorhead, one in Hazard, one in London, one in Pikeville, one in Prestonsburg, and one in Whitesburg. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, that's got it.
So we had all intentions of launching 3 more of those this spring, and we've been a bit disrupted around that. We'll talk about what that means and before we wrap up today. And then the financial commitment, I guess I'm answering I'm talking about locally, and Enoch can talk about kind of their national model of how they do it. But we've paid a license fee to COSTARTERS to be able to host that. And last year, I think we charged $125 per participant. And, that's another line we were wondering, do we charge? Do we not charge?
Right.
It's
and
difficult.
If you graduated, you got money back as a gift as well if you went through.
Yeah, we had an incentive that if they completed the 9 weeks, they got like $50 back, I think.
Nice.
But that's our model here. So you can look for SOAR to run 6 of these around the region, maybe a virtual hybrid version. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's kind of, we have been a partner with COSTARTERS to deploy it on the ground locally, and maybe that he can talk about the model at a larger level.
Sure. Yeah. So we work with local and regional partners. Our goal is to build up local capacity and not be the outside experts who come in and drop knowledge. That just doesn't work. So the idea is we work with people like Jared and Ryan and their networks to equip local business leaders who want to support other business owners to actually provide the local support. And so that the financial model for that is a membership or license model where there's pay an annual fee depending on the number of communities you're supporting, where we then work with you, support you in setting up that structure and making it, it's all kind of dialed in. So it's a very efficient, effective kind of intern ready checklist, kind of ready to go. As far as the direct support to businesses, there are a variety of resources that we provide both directly and through our network, like through SOAR, like this core program, which is a more intensive kind of 2 months of in-depth support. And that typically varies where businesses pay somewhere between $100 to around $500 depending on the community. We have found it's very important that businesses pay something to be invested in the process. And then also there's some workshop models that are free or, $50, that kind of thing as well. And I think we'll get to it in a second because of the COVID-19 need right now for businesses, existing businesses to kind of pivot, to recover, or to stabilize and move toward recovery. We've been offering more centralized support resources as well virtually to anybody anywhere. Which I know SOAR is working on providing some of those things as well within their network in the region. But then we're also providing some other tools to complement that. So happy to talk more one-on-one if you're interested in discussing that with anybody on this call. But we've got a suite of resources from free to paid, from membership model with a community to direct support from us. Pretty much, if there's a need, if you've got businesses that need help, there's ways we can help move that forward for you. So I'd be happy to talk.
There was one other question in the chat box talking about the statistics around access to capital for minorities, women, internationals, especially in Appalachia, and the lack of mentors, all the things that we struggle with. And so this person, Brian, had a question: which is first, the capital or the mentors? And regardless, what are the 3 or 4 critical elements for creating an ecosystem where everyone has access to the resources needed to prosper?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So, Brian, I'm gonna actually do a yes and here and say capital and mentors are great. I would say the thing that's most helpful first is a community of entrepreneurs, getting entrepreneurs connected with each other. And so whatever it takes to do that, whether it's people like Ryan and Jared kind of bringing them together, or it's just businesses helping themselves, right? Connecting with themselves without any external support organization. When you have that network starting to build, that demand, I guess, kind of demand-driven structure, right? Helps bring in the mentors and the investors and all those things. Now, of course, it is still a chicken and egg, right? Because even if you have demand, it's still hard to get the investors and the mentors, and it's hard to create the demand without, so I'm not trying to be naive and say, well, you don't need that, you just need this. But what I found is it's a lot easier to get investors and mentors committed when there are entrepreneurs who are working on interesting things and need help, than it is to get them committed and get them to stick around while you're trying to find those entrepreneurs. And so definitely found that to be an easier way forward. In addition to that, I want to keep harping on this as much as I can. This model of peer support, right, where people help each other. When you develop a strong network of trust of businesses who know each other, trust each other, know each other's needs, and connect each other with resources. In many ways, that network, that web of relationships, can then get those investors or those mentors either discovered or integrated in ways that just somebody making a list of people who can invest and people who can mentor, and then trying to connect down to the entrepreneurs is a lot more difficult. So I guess any investment in building that cultural fabric pays off so handsomely when it comes to this type of network building that you're talking about.
I think that's dead on. We've seen it in our work. I grew up in rural Appalachia. We serve a quarter of the geography of the state that was within 2 interstates with the largest town population of less than 7,000. And so what we've found is that there are lots of entrepreneurs across that broad geography. Very few of them know each other. They feel like they're on islands. They feel like they're the odd one and they're the community that's taking the risk, that's doing. So the more we've been able, and this is what I love about COSTARTERS, is it's not just a training course. It's not just get a certificate. It builds community. And so you have other entrepreneurs who get trained facilitators, and they're helping one another. And there's just something about the human side of that network that says, oh, I'm not the only one doing this type of work. And you can share your highs, your lows, your struggles. And there's an inspirational part of it that says, I'm part of a broader community. For us, we've had to do that. You can't do it within one community when your largest town is 7,000. I mean, you can build a small network. But when you can find those people that are multi-counties around and bring them together and at least introduce them to one another, and they begin to know one another, then you start to build a bit of density that you can play off of. But getting the entrepreneurs to know one another, I think, is the first step. And getting them working together and caring about one another.
One quick thing, Brian, on the roles. You were saying what are the 3 or 4 critical elements for creating an ecosystem? again, I'm going to go all high level on you, but I get what you're saying about the specific things, but so often people overdo the specific things, trying to identify capital resources and things like that. And they don't look at some of the maybe relational environmental things. So I want to talk about that. I would say the two most fundamental things to bring those other infrastructure elements in place is really around creating the social infrastructure. And the two concepts are creating density of trust and clarity of purpose. There's a book called Team of Teams by General Stanley McChrystal that goes much deeper on this concept. But if you can build density of trust and clarity of purpose across a network, that allows accelerates the identifying, the connecting, and the unlocking of the other resources. And so I would focus my energy on that accelerant, building that cultural infrastructure, to then unlock and bring together the other kind of resource infrastructure that's needed. In addition to that, there's a variety of specific roles in a community that are really helpful. And I'll drop a link in the chat here that we've kind of created 6 different roles in a community that are pretty powerful in building an ecosystem. And again, that's more an activity role, a leadership role, which then allows the infrastructure resources to be identified and unlocked. And so I think you may have been referring to infrastructure, around capital or mentors. But I think if you have some of these connecting pieces happening first or alongside identifying the infrastructure, accelerates that.
I got a quick question. Have you taken co-starters through the co-starters canvas?
Oh, that's a good one. Yes, we should do it. We need to do it more often. But when we look at launching new products, when we look at shifting things, we do that. In fact, we just recently, when COVID-19 came and we were figuring out what's our best thing to do to support businesses through this time, we were like, okay, we're going to stop, assume everything stops. What's the best thing for us to do? Like if we just stop everything we're doing and do what actually small businesses need right now. We went through a canvas for that.
Yeah.
And that helped us focus on our Road to Recovery set of programs that we just rolled out.
I think that's probably a great lead in to kind of our final question. We got about 9 minutes left here. Kind of talk to us about what that is with the Road to Recovery, what COSTARTERS looks like today, what you envision for the next 6 months. We're hopeful of a virtual COSTARTERS cohort launch, in some form or fashion. So what's in the works? What are y'all thinking in the next 6 months?
Yeah, so right now our focus is primarily on helping existing businesses stabilize and kind of refocus their efforts to be able to keep going in the uncertainty and then be in a strong position to recover or pivot as needed to make it out of this time hopefully stronger than coming into it. And so with that, we have put together a set of resources that we're currently offering centrally to just make them available to anybody as quickly as possible. And then we're also working on equipping our partner networks like the SOAR network with those tools as well. So one is there's so many resources and resource guides flying around. It's just overwhelming. There's so much noise and confusion. And so we did a first pass of curating some of pretty much making a list of the list. If there's too many lists, what do? You make another list, right? Searchable, taggable, find the list that actually matters for you so you can ignore the rest. And so that's available, our COSTARTERS Recovery Guide. I think at this point it's becoming less, there's some other good things popping up that are more helpful. And so we might retire that soon and just point to other people. The second thing we're doing is providing a workshop. We're calling it the Refocus Workshop. It's a 2-hour kind of really quick, think of a 2-hour pivot session, right? Get your head out of panic mode, out of overwhelm, and into some kind of focus time to start triaging, okay, what's actually urgent and important? What's the best way I can focus my efforts? And how do I know if I'm taking the best next steps to move forward so that I can use this time as efficiently, effectively as possible to get on the right track? And so we've already supported over 1,000 people in the past several weeks nationally. That's virtually delivered. It's weekly. Our next one is this Thursday, so we'd love for you to join us on that. So we're doing that, providing that regularly. And then also, if you guys want to offer that across the SOAR network yourselves, you're welcome to do that too. We're offering it essentially at this point now every other week. Just as a stopgap for that. The third thing is we are making this program that Jared mentioned, the core COSTARTERS program, we actually retooled the entire process specifically for the moment of businesses shifting and recovering during this time. So we relaunched a new program called Rebuild. And so that's 10 sessions over about 2 months of support, where we are working with groups of 20 business owners from all around the country to start that slow process of kind of stabilizing and digging out, right, to get to a strong place. And so that's being provided directly through us right now. And then also, I think we started some of the conversations a couple weeks ago with y'all. So I know that y'all are looking at offering either a virtual version of the core program or the Rebuild program as well. So that one of those will be coming soon through the SOAR network. So really, there's a lot of options available to everybody across the region. If you do want to check out some of those resources that we are offering, essentially, you can see that at our website. I'll drop the link in the chat.
That'd be great. We've got some COSTARTERS graduates on here from our cohorts in Eastern Kentucky that we've ran. Yeah, there's a raise your hand function if you'd like to speak and just speak to your experience in that, or maybe there's some appreciation for the content, the opportunity you had, the things you learned, and just see how that came from a group of entrepreneurs, just like you are in your business. I mean, at one point, this was an idea in somebody's head, all right? And so we like to see how that plays out and the impact that's been made. We've also got Earl Gull is joining us today, and I want to give a shout out to him and say hello and how much I appreciate him. He's a former federal co-chair of the Appalachian Regional Commission, and for the SOAR initiative, I always say Earl was the first committed investor and moving SOAR from an idea and one event to an initiative and an organization, and it was a key leader in helping us build from the ground up. And so I want to say thank you, Earl. I'd love for you to say a few words. I don't know if you will or not, but I'm going to allow you to talk. But
we also have Mr. Tibbs' hand raised too, Jared.
Yeah, all right, here we go. We'll let me find them. There we go, Timothy and Ruthie.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys so much for everything with COSTARTERS, because we did the one in Pikeville a few months ago, and it was amazing because within just those 2 months, we went from having just this concept of a candy store downtown to going to have e-commerce, and like what we're doing now is so much better for our family, and it's so much more fun and innovative, and it would never have happened without COSTARTERS. So thank you for these ideas and putting it all together in such a nice package for us.
Oh, thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ruthie.
Hey, Earl.
Hey, so it's just so exciting to see you guys work together. I met Enoch down in Chattanooga at one of their first classes that they had, and then seeing his work coming up to Eastern Kentucky is just so exciting. We always talk about the importance of reaching out and getting out of your hollers. For me, this is like this is what we're trying to do. So it's very exciting to see it. So thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we talk about networks. There was an interesting study. We'll start to wrap up here. We're almost out of time. And I can't remember the group that reached out that shared it with us, but one of the things they said, they found that rural communities that have been successful in entrepreneurship, the successful entrepreneurs had extensive experience outside of the community. And it didn't mean they moved and lived somewhere else, but they had traveled. They'd gone and seen other towns, other communities, other places, experienced the way entrepreneurs were doing it. And that was one of the 3 key indicators of a successful rural entrepreneur. And so the role that the Appalachian Regional Commission has played, the rural network we're working on beyond just Kentucky, but across Appalachia and even broader. I mean, the more of those connections we have, I think the better we all are. We're gonna begin to wrap this up. Any final words from you? We appreciate you being here today. We'd love to have a final thought from you for sure.
Sure. Well, this has been great. And yeah, Earl, really appreciate the support over the years of the whole region, and just so many communities that I think could very easily be passed by without any advocacy, any resources to help them kind of build on the energy and passion they have to build up their local culture. You've been the advocate, so greatly appreciate the work that you've done over the years with ARC. It's been really awesome to see that, and then to go to other communities across the country that don't have that type of advocacy and support, and realize how special it is here in this side of the country. But this is great. Thank you all so much for having me here. I mean, I guess the one thing that I'd like to close with is talking about that big picture shift, right? We're shifting from this industrial age to what's next, and the rules are changing. The rules of business are changing. The purpose of business is, open for disruption. And the way in which we do business, in many ways, we can create that future together. And with the crisis that we're in, as awful as it is and as debilitating as it is, it's forcing us to change. We can't do what we did to stay alive, but that means we're given the opportunity to do things differently. And if while we make this shift, we can be intentional. I know earlier you were just talking about making a decision. It's the thing. If you're not making the decision's being made forward for you. And so we can just pivot to survive and unintentionally make whatever decisions we need to keep our doors open as businesses or as communities, or we can intentionally take this as an opportunity to build the future of our businesses or our community in a way that will serve our communities better and the people in our communities better. And we can use this as a position of strength and opportunity to accelerate the disruption that was already happening in the way our society is shifting, and put us in a strong place. And so I just want to remind us and encourage us that this is our chance to get things more right. And everybody is motivated to rally behind and do something about it, because we've got a really strong stick behind us, pushing us to get some good innovation out. So let's take advantage of this opportunity and come out stronger. And I really believe the best way that happens is when we come together and we do that together. So really excited about the opportunity. Y'all are in such good hands with Ryan and Jared supporting you all as a region. And they're, I just couldn't think of better people who care deeply and know how to get stuff done. And that's a really powerful asset you have with SOAR as well. So I'm excited about the future that you all have together. And I'm in your corner however I can help.
We appreciate it. We're gonna close out. I'll say that we SOAR, we always say we unequivocally believe there's a future in Appalachia. And so all of this information will be documented on there'safuture.org. You can go to that site, click on business as unusual. You can find this conversation if you want to go back to it, if you want to share it. It was also streamed live on our Facebook. It'll be on YouTube. You can find it there. And the final ask we always have, the best thing you can do, because lots of people ask us, what can I do to help? How can I help, move SOAR's mission forward? And so if you're an entrepreneur, the best thing you can do is take ownership by growing your business. Just be better at what you're doing. I think Enoch said it great, that small business are drivers of culture. So don't give up. Find ways to move forward. Reach out to us if you're up against a wall and facing challenges. We'll try to help you over it, around it, through it, whatever we need to do. We'll dig under it. But just grow your business and do your best at it. Look for us to be launching a COSTARTERS core program soon, and we'll probably do another refocus workshop, I think, Ryan.
Yep.
We planned one of those, one of the 2-hour sessions. That was it was very successful. The first one we did virtually. We'll be doing another one of those. So keep a lookout for that, and we look forward to seeing you. Everybody have a great day.
Thank you all.
See you all.